But if you feel like you're doing something naughty, you probably are.
Yeah. Which is a good rule in life, really.
Yeah, I think so. Hello and welcome to Off Script, a podcast for the tech community. I'm here with Josh, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a 2022 developer roundup.
Nice to see you, Rio. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, yeah. So it's been a busy year. Everyone's coming back into the office, you know, things are ramping up again.
Yeah.
Looming recession.
Yeah, can't forget that.
A war,
economy in tatters.
Yeah, but apart from that, that lettuce outlasted Liz Truss, who's from Round Hay, which is just around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, she said it was a shithole, didn't she? She said
It's
it was awful.
really nice, though.
I don't know what she's on about.
The houses are expensive. Yeah.
so I might be biased, but yeah, I think it's all right.
So Dario lives opposite her dad, and it's a very nice area.
Yes. Yeah. So she called it kind of the Bronx of North Leeds.
It's not. It's just nice.
But I'm glad that she is no longer our Prime Minister, which is fantastic.
She's left the ghetto.
She flew the nest. But yeah, so it's been an interesting year. I think there's been a lot of interesting tech things for us to tick through. As always, we're going to kind of go through the months, really, and things that were relevant to us. In general, it's been quite nice to get back to the office, I think, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been really good, actually. You get that sort of random effect where you just have these odd conversations, that serendipity of just things you wouldn't normally overhear, and you could get a bit lost in millions of Slack messages, can't you?
That whole water cooler chat I thought was kind of rubbish, and now I do believe that it is important, you know, when you're making a brew or something, you do chat to people in a slightly different light.
Yeah, well, you know that they're not busy with something at that moment because they're making a cuppa, and you can just go, hi, how's it going? And ask them what they're getting for lunch, and you just have a bit of a chit chat, and then it leads on to other things, and then you start working and adding other bits to their projects, and
you find out things that you might not have found out about projects that you wouldn't normally ask about certain things. You're like, oh, that's happening over there, is it? Oh dear.
Yeah. Well, you get a sense of what might be soon on fire.
It was interesting though. That always on kind of mindset is still a bit of a challenge. I think I was traveling back from the shops with Else the other day, and she was like, oh, someone wants to call now, and like you feel compelled to take it there, and then actually no, you're allowed a lunch hour, you're allowed to do.
The lunch hour is making a return. It's kind of for me. I've been booking it out, but you know.
I did enjoy, I can't remember who posted it on LinkedIn, but there was that company that was like, introducing the recharge hour.
You can go away from your desk and you've invented the lunch hour.
Well done. You've invented kind of general employee rights.
There was a lot of backlash on that, wasn't there?
I very much enjoyed it though. So should we start from the top of January?
Let's kick off with January. So Inspect is a Figma plugin. And Figma's been really coming on recently, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So I did my wedding website stuff in Figma, and I knocked together an email, like in not very long at all. And then there was like a plugin I can just export it as horrible HTML listed tables. And it rendered in Outlook and all sorts. And
you're joking.
It's just like, wow. This is good.
That's quite. So basically, they've made Figma Dreamweaver, which is fantastic. But I think that particular Inspect plugin could export to React and Tailwind and all sorts. So that's quite exciting. Obviously, news later in the year that Figma was acquired by Adobe, which was not met with as much praise as they probably hoped.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, it doesn't come under the cloud billing thing.
Yeah.
Creative Cloud, which is secretly just loads of desktop apps.
Yeah, under one terrible subscription.
Yeah.
But no, Figma's definitely been something I've been using a lot more this year. I still love Sketch. I've got to be honest. I do like
a soft spot.
Yeah, mainly because I bought it.
Yeah,
feel bought into it. But yeah, I do like Figma. It's good. The other interesting news from January was Mozilla started to accept crypto donations and then immediately put a pause on them.
I think they'd accepted crypto for a long while, and they just accidentally tweeted, "Oh, by the way," some marketing intern and gone, "Check out our crypto donation link," and then the internet was like, "No."
That's the problem sometimes when you're missing the context of that how a trend's going in the tech sphere, isn't it? It's quite challenging. So they stopped accepting them almost immediately, I think. and probably at the right time, I'd say.
Because it's just bad for the environment.
Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that happened in January, there's a really good blog post by Hidde de Vries on Web3. And this really struck a chord with me because I got really angry at Web3 because it isn't a thing.
Yep.
And he published a really good blog post on the web doesn't have version numbers.
Yeah, good post.
Very good.
I hate Web3 as a term.
It's just shy. Like Web2, I kind of see what we were saying with that in terms of how it turned a genuine corner. But
for me, Web2 was Ajax. It was drop shadows and bubble design.
Yeah.
But mainly Ajax, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think just the way that you could bring kind of more interactivity and more kind of componentized updates to pages. That was quite a big change in how we built web apps. But I think bundling all the other horrible stuff under Web3, NFTs, other things like that, they can go away.
Yeah, and I think we now know that even a decentralized, in inverted commas, Web3 is completely centralized because when someone goes bust, all your NFT stuff are falling.
Yeah, and also there's a reason that things like transactions and stuff are centralized because you kind of want to know where your money goes when it disappears.
Yeah.
And then there's another thing around kind of privacy and law and policy related change in Germany. A state court ruled that Google fonts on your site breaches GDPR.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, they get your IP address. So, they're Google.
Yeah. So, I mean, for a long time, Google Fonts has had I don't know if it's had a bad rep, but it's been definitely talked about a lot how Google Fonts is a concern around privacy, what Google are doing with that information. I think we'll talk about some of the kind of policy stuff later on in the year, but I thought it was particularly interesting because if that was kind of wholesale banned or declared illegal, that's quite a big problem.
Yeah, I think Google Analytics is still not compliant.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense in terms of, and also I think how people use and leverage analytics. There's been a brilliant rise of more privacy-aware analytics platforms that don't collect everything.
Like
about
Fathom
users.
Analytics are pretty good. They're cool. They do lots of good engineering posts about how they scale as well.
Nice.
But yeah,
I've been looking at Cloudflare's one as well. I've not turned it on yet.
Nice.
They've got the Cloudflare analytics as part of the Pro plan, so I'm tempted to look at that too.
I'll have to check that out.
February. What happened in February?
Reducing the web's carbon footprint. So there was a post about optimizing social embeds.
Yeah, this was an interesting one because there's quite a lot of bandwidth used in things that end up being posted all over the internet, and I think this was a really interesting take on how we can really optimize the kind of way that we embed our media in platforms. So even things like optimizing images, all the basic stuff, but also optimizing generally kind of your OG meta tags to try and so this kind of I guess falls under kind of green engineering responsibilities for people, but it's definitely a really interesting article. We'll chuck it in the show notes and take a read.
Performance is cost savings, is energy savings, isn't it? They're all the same.
There's been a rise in these OG image as a service libraries and stuff. I don't know if you've seen them.
I haven't. Maybe I have actually.
So they'll like auto generate. I think they use AI, as everything does these days.
Yeah.
They use AI to basically create that kind of OG meta tags for your page.
Nice.
Quite cool.
We pulled them into the browser that we launched called Chatloop, and the feed is made up of open graph images at the moment.
Cool.
It's just a quick way to get that going before we let people do their own images and embeds. And
that's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice. What else happened in Feb?
Building a greener web.
This was the great talk from Michelle Barker, I think. And it was just about the environmental impact of our sites and other considerations you can take. So I guess following on from the kind of green engineering side of things, it was just a really good talk. I think it's about 20 minutes long. Just have a look. It's got some little nuggets to take away and just kind of consider for your next project.
Awesome. Looks really good.
And the other thing that happened in Feb, which was quite an exciting time for the community, was that Netlify started sponsoring full-time open source dev for 11T.
Oh, nice.
They got Zach Leatherman involved, I think. I guess they kind of like acqui-hired him and that. But I think it was just, well, it wasn't the start, but it was a growing kind of popularity of acquiring really shit-hot open source maintainers as kind of DevRel people, I guess.
Nice.
But that's cool, and it seems to be working out really well. And what's nice is that Netlify, I like Netlify. I've not been quiet about that, but they've not made him just this Netlify salesman. That he's still kind of doing what he loves on 11T, which is great.
Nice. That's really cool.
So yeah. What happened? What happened in March?
New year, a new MDN. So MDN is the Mozilla Developer Network, which has been the gold standard of resource on all things front end and browser.
If you get W3C, close the window and go immediately to MDN is the usual habit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of crap on the internet, isn't there? What's the one that keeps coming up? W3 Schools or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I hate it so much.
Bugger off. It's got loads of adverts on it. It's like...
And all the, like, I'm sorry, but a lot of the examples are really outdated and they don't keep up a lot with a lot of the modern standards, really.
They've only just got scripts with jQuery, haven't they? So.
Yeah. So MDN's been, as you said, the kind of gold standard. They did a huge refresh. I think it was met with mixed emotions from the community. Half loved it, half hated it. That whole classic.
Yeah, I like it. It looks nice.
Yeah, I think it takes a little bit of time to get used to because you're so used to using the MDN docs over the years. But I really liked it. I thought it was really good. And it's nice to see that they're committing to, MDN for the future as well. Because I know there was a concern for a while, wasn't there, about them ditching it?
Yeah, because they did mention at some point that they were going to reduce the number of people working on it. And that spooked everyone, didn't it?
Yeah, everyone got a bit scared about that. But they seem to have sorted that out, which is good.
Awesome.
What else in March? 5
web things that you don't need JavaScript for. So CSS has got a bunch more smarter, and you can do lots of different state stuff now that you couldn't do before.
Yeah,
and it works in all the browsers. So this is a really good post that just goes through a bunch of things that you won't need JavaScript for these days.
Yeah,
which is really cool. So we've got like animating SVGs, like sidebar states, like opening and closing, tooltips.
Yeah, you must remember doing those old menus where you'd have to check it, like almost like accordion style menus and all that sort of stuff. All hell to code, or just really boring, monotonous things that are now part of these kind of standards, which is good.
Because you did used to have little hacks where you could like check an invisible checkbox in the background, and that changes something, but. Yeah, it's just got a lot cleaner and nicer.
Yeah, luckily we don't have to make those hacks anymore. What else happened?
CSS Tricks, and this is a site that we've linked to quite a lot. They've been acquired by DigitalOcean.
Yeah.
Chris Coyer and his team are probably pretty happy about that. Because he's been plugging away at that for years, hasn't he? It was just him for ages, just putting out content pretty much every other day, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's quite impressive. If you'd said to me, that's going to get acquired by a hosting company, I wouldn't have believed you. But it's quite, again, following on from the Netlify thing, it's quite cool to see these kind of pillars of the industry investing in the community, investing in resources for the community. I think it's only really positive news.
Yeah, I wonder what they'll do with it. I guess they'll just keep it going and just have a few DigitalOcean ads smattered through it.
Just control all the ads.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also another thing in March was that the US had announced plans to make daylight saving time permanent, which I think is an interesting consideration for us. Working with time zones and times in general are always a bit of fun. There's always quirky bugs and interesting edge cases that you kind of miss, and I'm not sure where this got to actually, but it's interesting because there's a lot of kind of hacks, I think, that you'd have to kind of reverse or you'd have to refactor.
Yeah, for us it would be an absolute godsend because for IoT it's an absolute nightmare.
I can imagine, yeah.
It's like the lights come on at this time, but that time is now a different time. But yeah, it's bad for people's mental health and well-being. like the heart attack rates go up when you lose that when you go back an hour.
Really?
Yeah. There's a masterclass on sleep, and he was talking about how bad daylight savings is for people's health, because that's the only like global study, not study, but like it's the only way that they can see the effect of sleep on health in the population. So although it's a bad thing, it's sort of proven the link between heart attacks and sleep.
That's interesting.
But yeah.
Did it mention the effect on programmers' mental health?
Yeah, maybe some of the heart attacks are people waking up to realise that they've bodged their DST code. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, I was thinking, could you just change the underlying implementation on the on the language, for example, which is obviously what you could do. But the main problem is those edge cases where you kind of like, if DST, do this or that, and that would be a bit more difficult to unpick, I think.
Yeah. I guess a lot of programming languages take their DST stuff from the operating system.
Yeah.
So it should almost be like it's just permanently in or out.
Yeah, if the OS fixes it, will cascade into the languages themselves and stuff. Yeah. In theory.
But yeah, still something will break.
Yeah. So moving on to April. What happened in April?
Well, there was a Devs for Ukraine, which is an online charity conference. So there's a big tech industry in the Ukraine, and a lot of very high-profile open source products and companies, and they just had to stop for a bit.
Yeah.
And the internet rallied around them, and they did a bunch of talks, and people donated, and it all went to some NGOs and humanitarian funds, and it was a nice thing.
Yeah, I saw a lot of the really kind of big devs on Twitter and stuff tweeting about this, taking part in it. It was really amazing to see the community come together. It kind of it was a weird one, this, because when the war started, I was working with some engineers in Ukraine, and one of them carried on working. I was like, "Are you okay? What's happening?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm in hiding." And I was like, "Why are you at work?"
Yeah.
Like, but in a way, it was kind of the resilience of life goes on, and just kind of people trying to crack on with their lives was quite incredible. But yeah, that conference was really nice to see, really nice to celebrate kind of the amazing talent that we have out of Ukraine, and also supporting them financially through the war.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some big startups like you've got Grammarly and GitLab have got strong Ukrainian ties.
Yeah, I didn't realize Grammarly was from Ukraine. No.
Yeah. So yeah, it affects the internet, doesn't it? As well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that happened in April was when I didn't realize this, when something gets deleted from Twitter actually yanks all of the tweet embeds over the internet from wherever they're embedded.
Oh, right.
Which was causing all sorts of weird quirks from people trying to embed stuff to show context to something. So if a tweet's deleted that you embed, it'll delete the entire embed from your DOM.
That's weird, because the embed itself has got the tweet text in it.
Yeah, so it's really odd.
So it does some JavaScript to go and get that and remove it from the DOM.
Yeah, so I think it phones home and goes, "Oh, this doesn't exist anymore," and then just yanks the entire kind of node from the DOM, which is a bit cheeky, really, because
it is a bit cheeky.
I think ultimately, if you're embedding something on your site, you should have control over what happens with that. But I guess that's a good lesson to learn.
Oh, right. Did they roll that back?
I don't know why. If you just found the opposite,
just
that
having
working.
a look. Just having a gander.
Are all my sites broken? Well, that was something that someone had mentioned, but maybe they changed it. I don't know, or maybe because Elon's taken over Twitter now, it's neither working or working. It's hard to say. Schrodinger's in bed. While you check that, I'll just...
I'm also looking at DuckDuckGo for Mac, which launched.
Yes.
Which I completely missed, but I assume that's a Chromium-based
as everything
fork.
else.
Yeah. There's a bunch of relatively similar Chromium-based forks going on at the moment.
Yeah, what's the latest one? I forget what it's called.
There's the most interesting one I've seen is it's called The Browser Company in New York.
Right.
They've made a really fancy one, like loads of nice animations.
Oh, nice.
It's quite different from your out-the-box Chromium.
Oh, right.
But then you type Chrome // extensions and dig in, and it's all the old stuff underneath.
Oh, right.
And it's like, we've got ad blocking, but it's secretly just ad block plus
Oh, right.
extension added in there. But yeah,
Nice.
no, it's pretty cool.
It is good to see the kind of rise of these different takes on a browser, but also different takes without a lot of the same concerns that we had with, the IE days, where we had completely different rendering engines and things that we'd have to work around to try and negotiate the different browser support. But
my major concern is we're just doing the same thing but just with Chromium. So it's one engine. Firefox is still going, and then they are still keeping up mostly. But nobody uses Firefox, do they?
And then you've got Safari as well, but that's still kind of...
That's WebKitty, but this forked off now, isn't it? Yeah.
I do wonder what it'll look like in 10 years' time, because the last 10 years have been quite incredible progress in the browser kind of space. It'll be interesting to see where we are in 10 years.
Yeah, definitely.
And also in April, a US court had reaffirmed that web scraping is legal, which is an interesting legal battle. I don't know if you followed it at the time, but it was quite an interesting kind of court case, because there was lots of conversations about what was really in the public domain and what was ownership, law around that like, because, I think, I don't know if you've ever written a web scraper before. I've written quite a few.
I have, yeah. That's how I sort of got into web programming, was scraping bits and pieces off sites. It was fun, wasn't it?
It was fun, but now there's lots of considerations like GDPR and if you're taking personal information, even if it is publicly published, you're then falling into the realms where the ICA will start to want to talk to you around if you're a processor or you're a controller and all that sort of stuff. So I think the fact that web scraping is legal is correct. Yeah, I agree.
And but if you feel like you're doing something naughty, you probably are.
Yeah. Which is a good rule in life, really.
Yeah, I think so. The law and morality are not the same.
Indeed. So moving on to May. What happened in May?
You had All Day Hey.
Yes.
And it went really well. And it was all packed. And it was nice to see everyone back.
So nice to see it full.
Yeah.
And people there and happy and enjoying it.
Yeah. And the AV setup was on point. All the speakers were fantastic. Had an amazing speaker dinner at Ox Club.
Yes, I'm not paying you to say this, but thank you.
And we didn't drink too much booze. So
didn't overcook it, which was good.
Yeah.
It was lovely to see everyone there, and thanks to your help as well.
I was acting as doorman that day.
Yeah, did a good job. Everyone got in who was meant to and who didn't.
Not coming in with those shoes, mate.
Operator streak. I'm not sure if that would work for a bunch of engineers and devs and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think anyone will be wearing smart shoes.
No, I don't think smart shoes is a thing at conferences. Cool. What else happened?
There was a really good post on cool things that people do with their blogs. So blogging is making a comeback because everybody hates Twitter and social media companies in general.
Yeah.
But people have realised that, you remember when you used to be able to make your own website? And then they're doing that again.
I like that though. I think I've started to think, because I'm doing that thing where I'm cross-posting to Twitter and Mastodon now. And I'm like, hey, should I just add like a feed to my site that syndicates to that? Andy Bell did a really good post on this where he's got that now. It kind of makes you realise, I should own my content. I should own my thoughts. Maybe I need to start using my personal blog again.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Is Mastodon good? I could see from the look in your eye.
I didn't immediately fall in love with it, but do you know what? The community there is a lot better. Right. So what you found out is the people on Twitter who are just arseholes haven't really bothered to move over to Mastodon,
right?
Because they love the toxicity of Twitter.
Okay.
But the people on Mastodon are there to generally share thoughts and generally there to work as a community a bit more. Maybe it's my echo chamber of the people that I follow on there. I don't know, but I really like the distributed nature of it. I really like the whole protocol of which it runs on. There's some super cool tech behind it. You should look into it. But
yeah, defo. Because I'm wondering, do we add it to Chatloop or something like?
I think
if it could be a Chatloop could be a Mastodon client. I don't know. too much about the ins and outs?
I think you need to look at it because, well, it's all based on this open standard of how I forget what it's called actually, but it's how the data syndicates to all the different Mastodon servers and how you can have followers on different servers and stuff. I need to remember what it's called.
Nice.
But yeah, so it's worth looking at.
I guess there's some issues with people being able to read DMs and stuff.
There's a bit of confusion for me in the interface because it's not as usable as Twitter was. Obviously, there's a barrier to entry. You've got to pick a server, and you can move servers and stuff. You can also set your own server up if you want.
Yeah.
Phil Hawksworth had a really good domain hack where you can get your own username at your domain, but not host a Mastodon instance.
Right. Okay.
Little Netlify redirector he created, but yeah, I think what kind of turned my head a little bit was I was starting to see some Guardian columnists moving on to Mastodon and using that as their primary platform to publish content. And
nice.
So I think people are, regardless of where you go, people are just sick of Twitter and Elon just fucking about with it. Yeah. So
I kind of miss IRC, to be honest.
Yeah, well, like the personal blog, I think we're seeing a lot of original trends coming back. Like I was having a chat with James, a friend who runs a marketing agency, and he's like, yeah, I think really should look at this mailing list thing. I was like, oh, do you know what's fucking depressing? We've gone full circle.
Yeah.
And we're back to mailing lists again, which is great because it's all about ownership and that sort of subscribership. But
yeah, emails and IRC. Let's bring it back.
Exactly.
Moving on to June.
Yep.
So CSS Day is back in real life. I think they did a virtual one the year before.
Yes.
And yeah, that was in Amsterdam, and that looks really good.
Yes, I really want to go to this one, actually. It looked like a really nice day. Yeah, it just looks great. And I really need to get to I love Amsterdam as well, which helps. We went there on your stag do,
yes.
Which would be a very different sort of weekend, I imagine, to going to a tech conference.
Yes, it would.
But yes, it was good nonetheless.
Yep, I am still recovering from that emotionally.
Yeah. And the only other notable thing, or not the only other notable thing, another notable thing was the Internet Explorer browser was retired.
Yeah, so this is really good news because it would just not die.
Yes.
And even better news is that they're secretly, well, not so secretly, but in an Edge update, there's some kill switch code coming that actually goes and gets it and fucks it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So some clever people are trying to make sure that it stays installed, but the Edge update will just kill it off, which is amazing.
Yeah, so that's going to screw most of the NHS, which is good.
Yeah, well, that's less good.
Yeah.
Well, they're still running on Windows XP, so I don't think they'll have an Edge update. So
yeah, I think they're probably okay, actually, aren't they?
Yeah, it's so riddled that it'll be fine.
I've just looked it up, by the way. It's W3C's ActivityPub standard, which for Mastodon.
Oh, nice.
You should look at it because that's actually really cool in terms of how the data is syndicated. It's very cool.
Sweet.
So have a look. The other thing I liked was Stranger Things. The new series of Stranger Things came out in June, and they had a hacking scene that featured Flexbox.
I think they just need to get someone that it knows what's going on.
Well, I'd like to believe the opposite here. I think it was someone who knew exactly what it was and wanted to plant a little Easter egg.
Do you think so?
I'd like to think so, because if you know what Flexbox is, you probably know.
I mean, that screen grab looks a bit Atari TOS, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was cool to see because it got people talking. It got people angry as well. Yeah, but I did like that it had Flexbox as part of the hacker screen. It was quite enjoyable. Whatever you'd be hacking with Flexbox, I'm not sure.
And then in June there was also WWDC.
Yes, that's on the list for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, loads of cool tech sessions, and yeah. WebKit's obviously coming on leaps and bounds. They're just adding more and more stuff.
Yeah.
Push notifications is coming to iOS Safari. Yeah.
I did like, as part of that WWDC, kind of one of the sessions was on human interface guidelines, which I don't know if you've seen them. They're fantastic. Oh, I'm sure you have.
I've always been eyeing up the HIG guidelines thing. It's just been great. They've got it absolutely right from day one, and they just keep evolving it.
Yeah, I think. Well, of course you have, because you're building an iOS app, so I'm sure you know. But yeah, I think it's I think it's great. It's basically a human interface Bible, isn't it? In terms of the kind of standards that are laid out in it, I think it's pretty incredible.
Because it explains why it's doing certain things as well, and the like when you have like the screens that come in front of other things, and you want that subtle 3D motion of something moving back. It's to give people a sense of depth and what's happened. And macOS was always really good at this. Like, it was very, very OTT, but when you did minimize, it did that sort of genie effect. Okay. But you knew where it was because it showed you. And it's like those little interactions.
They're not always gimmicky, are they? And I think the good thing is that obviously that's based off significant research in that space.
You can tell I'm getting excited because I'm waving my arms around everywhere.
Oh, genies.
When I first saw that, I was like, fucking hell.
I do like the amount of research that's kind of linked to in that too. And also they mentioned Apple passkeys, didn't they? Which is hoping to kill the password.
It will never die, but hopefully.
I don't see it replacing passwords just because of the sheer challenge of doing that. But I do like the whole approach with passkeys, especially with the support into password managers and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully just make all these sorts of things less of a consideration for the user and more of just a technology solved problem. Because even stuff like two-factor, it's still a bit arduous for a user, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like you just need some big, like Mozilla would be like a good good organization, not person. What am I talking about? But like, you don't want Apple or Google to solve it. You want you want the web to solve it.
You want W3C to really be involved in that, I guess. Our pal Mozilla. And speaking of W3C, they became a public interest not-for-profit organisation, which was good. So obviously W3C founded by Tim Berners-Lee.
I thought it was before, was it not?
Yeah, I thought so as well. But I mean, I guess regardless of any sort of profit-making activity, they've managed to remain a kind of unbiased source for standards, right? So,
awesome.
July.
So there was a really good write-up on the online safety bill.
Yes.
Usually the UK government gets tech very, very wrong.
Yes.
And this time they haven't disappointed.
I think it's interesting because there is an amazing kind of activist or kind of someone behind policy called Heather Burns, who isn't terrible. She has incredible knowledge in this space and actually done a really good write-up on the online safety bill and kind of what it means for you. What I really liked about it is it talked about it in kind of more plain language. So the online safety bill's around 4 new criminal offences essentially, and it was how that can affect kind of stuff that you're building apps for, what it means to us as developers as well.
So the bill was aggressively promoted as being about attacking big tech and tech giants, but actually it's not. It's getting regular people that are doing things online that the government doesn't want you to do. Which is bad. I mean, it was not very long ago that the UK government were trying to ban encryption, which is also incorrect.
Well, this is there's always some amazing memes and tweets and everything that comes off the back of these sorts of things, but ultimately it's super dangerous having people that don't understand these technologies behind the helm of policy and law. It's a scary space to be, actually. I've only really realized that working a bit more logically, actually, because online safety bill obviously affects a lot of what we try and do in terms of promoting that online discourse and trying to find bad actors. And
I mean, this is definitely a over the holidays thing, but I'd quite like to read the entire bill at some point.
Maybe glass of port just to help you digest that one.
I think so. Yeah.
But it's interesting, and I do believe we can't really ignore this sort of stuff, and it's our responsibility not necessarily to get involved in policy, but to really understand the impact of these sorts of bills.
Yeah, I mean, her post also mentions VATMOS. Do you remember that?
Oh, God, yeah, I mean
that was like a few years of hell. But
this is the thing. I mean, the best example of this sort of stuff just going terribly wrong is the whole cookie pop-up bollocks. It just everyone ignores them. They don't do what they're meant to do. That whole kind of movement was just really badly implemented.
At least that kind of had the right idea. Like it had a noble
Don't
goal.
Don't defend.
It was like, we want to protect people online.
Yeah.
But then after that bit, sentence 2.
Question mark profit.
Yeah.
Something like
delete cookies.
Yeah.
What? That's not how that works.
No. And the only other thing that was notable for me during July is Heroku had an absolute shocker of a time with downtime and issues. I ended up moving off Heroku, all my apps off Heroku after this. I got super pissed off with the lack of transparency and the flakiness of the services, which was quite good because it allowed me to kind of review what I was running on there, what I was paying for, what I could move to serverless or Netlify and things.
Yeah.
Really
I
good.
mean, old Heroku would have live blogged
Yeah.
everything and explained what was happening.
Well, they started live blogging it on the status site. And then after a little while, they were like, we'll get back to you.
Right.
And then it dropped off a cliff for something like 45 days.
No, that's not good.
And even though I think the apps returned like a few days later, I think it was due to an OAuth. Or one of the issues was they got an OAuth breach.
I feel like their legal team internally went shut it down, but that's not good. Because then you don't know what's going on.
Well, with any sort of security incident, you want that transparency. You want to know what's happened.
Yeah.
And I think the fact they went completely silent just made me freak out even more.
Because you're like, do I need to change all my keys or not? Yes, no, let me know.
Yeah, literally. I think I got like a month later, I must have got an email saying, here's what happened. You're like, this is too late.
Yeah.
Can't respond this way.
That's bad.
So yeah, sorry Heroku. I loved you at one point, but you're dead to me.
Cool. And then that moves us on to August.
Yes.
Which was a very busy month because I got married.
Yes, a very busy month for you.
Good.
That was the one item off the to-do list ticked.
Yeah. That's only been on the to-do list for a few years now and just keep shoving it along.
A little bit of scope creep on that one, wasn't there, I think?
Yeah. COVID. Then the venue burnt down. Apart from that, it was all good.
I think I was kind of watching it like a sitcom, just seeing what would happen there. You guys had a real bad run of luck, but do you know what? On the day, you would never have known any of that.
It was beautiful, sunny, very chill.
I do feel like the universe kind of went, do you know what?
I'll let you off.
We'll let you off on this one. It is a bit of sun. And it was great. It was lovely. And we had some fantastic food at the Star Inn, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was lovely.
It was good.
Andrew Pern cooked us up some grub, which was nice.
And he made us barbecue the night before.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
lovely.
Lovely. What else happened in August?
There was an update to Chrome's DevTools. Chrome version 105, because everyone's using Semver really aggressively these days. Everything's a breaking change. So that was good. It's got some mouse over events in the recorder panel. It's got a bunch of largest contentful paint calculations.
You could set breakpoints as well, couldn't you? In some of the kind of flows, which was really helpful. So I think DevTools now is just so like you I know you couldn't do without it, but we remember the days when you used to when Firebug had to be like added as a
hotlink file bug from a CDN.
Yeah. But can you what's amazing is these DevTools are basically IDEs in their own right now, aren't they? And they have the best tools because they're so closely linked to the runtime, which everything kicks off in. So yeah, it's pretty amazing how far they've come. And I guess that's one of the reasons that we love Chrome, right?
Yeah, no, it's really good. And Chrome's DevTools are just way ahead of Safari in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, Jeremy Keefe posted a really good post on the various no-code tools that are out there in the wild. And there's a really good article talking about the kind of professional versus expressionist approach. So kind of like, we are professionals in our industry. We cut code. That is what we spent a lot of time honing our skills on. How does that kind of match with these no-code tools that allow you to express yourself really quickly?
I think they're great.
Yeah.
Webflow is amazing. We're going all in on Webflow at Parallax because it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't spend your engineering time where you can not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've got great APIs, and you can if you want to do a back end and push data into it, you can do that. But yeah, we want our front end devs making engineering applications that can't be made with no code tools or AI.
Yeah. Everything else, every conversation now has to have the or AI qualifier.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I think if you're looking 10, 15 years ago, people were like, I want one of them, and you go, okay, I'll make that for you, and you'll go away and you'll code it for a while. But now, a lot of these kind of no-code tools have these templates out the box, and they actually work. There's a time when these sorts of site builders were really shit. And
it doesn't chuck out code that you would be horrified about writing yourself.
I'm often horrified with my own code. So
that you wrote it, so you're even more scared.
I was actually reading that Joel Spolsky article because everyone's kicking off because Elon talked about we should rewrite the whole of Twitter. I don't know if you saw that.
And Joel on Software's blog had that classic article about don't rewrite.
Yeah.
Because each line of code, each horrible workaround is actually a day of a customer ringing up. And
literally.
Then an engineering team unpicking it, and then someone designs it. And then...
Yeah, he just that whole things you should never do. Part 1 is the article. You should read it. There's loads of good quotes. When you throw away code and start from scratch, you are throwing away all that knowledge, all those collected bug fixes, years of programming work, and it's so true. So I don't know what took me on this tangent. Sorry, but you definitely need to read it. And the other thing that I was reminded of in August was GitHub's. What's your first GitHub contribution tool? I don't know if you've done this, but I did it.
I've just done it now. Mine was 11 years ago, and it was a pull request against CSS Wizardry /vanilla. Oh, there we go.
So was that Harry's old CSS framework or something like that? Maybe I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
one of his old ones.
And he closed it.
Oh.
So that's a good story, isn't it?
Well, that was a valuable
That
contribution.
can't be my first pull request, surely. But I was doing a lot of SVN and mailing list stuff.
Yeah, probably using all sorts of horrible SVN tools. Mine, actually, I was surprised to see was a contribution to Rails.
Nice.
A documentation fix to Rails. Which is good because that's probably one of my first and only contributions to Rails.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that your first contribution on GitHub maybe got closed. I have to have a chat with Harry about that.
There's a load of cool stuff in here that I'd forgotten I'd ever touched. That's really cool.
There you go.
Nice. Trip down memory lane.
Yeah, well, I quite like that sort of stuff because you kind of forget where you've come from a little bit in terms of all the stuff that you've learned and the stuff that you now take for granted. There's often a lot of talk about more senior engineers within the industry. It's really less about the code and more kind of the learning process that you go on, I think, over time.
Yeah, definitely.
So September, what happened in September?
The source code of WebKit is now managed on GitHub.
Nice.
So people can contribute through there. It's just a nice place to work, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, GitHub's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm not working with it as much as I'd like at the moment because some of the clients that I'm working with use Bitbucket and GitLab and other things like that. And every time I use them, I'm just reminded of why they're a poor man's GitHub.
Yeah. I mean, WebKit stuck with SVN for the longest time.
Yeah.
And it's not very nice to work with, but the people found their workflow and everyone secretly used Git anyway.
Yeah.
With Git SVN, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then you'd use Git locally and then check it into Subversion because reasons.
But that goes to show, how important process is to engineers. You've got to get it right. Otherwise, productivity or the kind of want to work with something just drops off, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. What else happened in September?
Another thing that I liked, Heather Burns, who I mentioned earlier, launched a book covering data privacy and kind of how to understand it and stuff. Again, Heather's a really good tech policy expert. Definitely have a look at that in the show notes. There's just loads of interesting takeaways. As I said before, I do think the best way to kind of work with this sort of stuff is to really understand the policy and try and influence it, where possible in the right direction, because ultimately I think the voice of a community who are going to have to adhere to policy and work with these policies is super important. So just like it's important to vote in your local election. I believe it's very important to be vocal about these policies and where they're right and where they're not right and so on.
Oh, nice. I'll have to add that to the reading list.
Yeah, definitely worth having a look at. What else happened in September? So one thing that did happen is Chris Coyer gave a talk dubbed "The web is good now."
Oh, nice.
Which kind of resonates a lot with some of the things we chatted over the last few episodes, really.
Yeah, because our first podcast episode was the web better 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And we said no. But we did miss a few bits. But yeah, the web is getting good.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like I remember, like Cipher and like embedding Flash files so you could have a title in a different font.
Yeah.
And now like it's just all built in and it's just works. And
isn't that mad that we used to have like hundreds of Flash embeds just for that?
Some proprietary like what?
so for those aren't familiar with it, so Cipher basically took a chunk of text that you wanted in a custom font when custom fonts weren't supported on the web. And then what it did is it took each glyph and replaced them with a Flash movie with the correct embedded font in it. At the right size, the right base, the height, and everything.
I think you could even select the text, couldn't you, and copy it?
That is an absolutely batshit solution. But do you know what? It worked really well.
Yeah. And then there was QFont later, which was the same, but canvas.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you did with PDFs and PDF.js, you know, these really JS amazing PDF. Creative solutions. Sorry, yeah. I like how you could just
PDF.
Sorry,
bane of my life.
Yeah, but you know, like that did something that wasn't possible, and I just love the creativity of the community when they don't accept that something won't work.
Absolutely,
which is great.
The web finds a way.
The web finds a way, yes.
And then Cloudflare launched their SVG support for images. So it can store, compress, deliver SVG files, which is good. It already does like WebP and all the rest, doesn't it?
Cloudflare's edge has become incredibly powerful over the last few years.
Well, they've got workers now, and they're getting really powerful. And a bunch of people running serverless applications. They've got a database.
Yeah, all sorts of weird and wonderful video tools as well.
Yeah, I heard their database is SQLite based.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I found interesting.
That's
I don't know
cool.
how that scales, but
I guess it's not our problem.
Yeah, but that's for them to sort.
Yeah, SQLite, no way.
Yeah, we did some Leeds Digital Festival stuff because that was September as well. So we did a DALI event, which was really well received. We wrote the brief to send to Leeds Digital Festival using AI, and we generated the cover image using DALI as well.
Brilliant.
And submitted that, and they accepted it. So then we did the talk.
That only feels like yesterday, and that was, 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it was before DALI had an API, so we built a scraper.
Yeah.
And we had like a screensaver thing where people would sit in the audience, scan the QR code, enter a prompt, and it comes up like a little screensaver thing.
That's cool.
You remember the old Mac screensaver where they sort of like float up and then it spins around?
Nice.
But I just found some CSS that did vaguely that and hacked it together. But it was the only talk I've done where people just sat in silence afterwards for about half an hour just typing prompts in. Like they were just,
That's great.
Because a lot of people hadn't experienced it then. It was quite new.
It's quite cool to do it in that kind of in an event style. You need to open source that little implementation you did, if you can.
Yeah, I will, and I can actually take the scraper out and put the real API.
Because
they launched that.
Yeah,
and then we did a design event and also a Beamer event. But it was a busy month for digital stuff in Leeds.
Yeah, you had quite a few events on. I was sad not to get involved in the digital festival this year. I just kind of being a bit thin on time. But you guys had so many events on. It looked brilliant. It looked great.
It was good. So October, BT Conf was on.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on the previous podcast, so I won't go on too much, but I absolutely loved my trip to Berlin. There's a whole podcast that we did on this, summarising the amazing talks and my time in the city. It's great. I love Berlin. Good
kebabs.
Great kebabs, great burgers. They're quite good at beer as well.
Yeah, they do a good Stein.
Yes, they do.
Google brought passkey support to both Android and Chrome.
Yes. So we're seeing more and more effort over the year, people committing to, these solutions to essentially stopping bad security hygiene by accident by users who don't care or don't know better, really.
Yeah, I need to dive into the tech on this because it does look like there are some open standards that underpin it.
Yeah, if you look at Apple's WWDC thingy on it, it's the whole session talks about, it is quite non-Apple specific. Obviously, Apple have implemented it really nicely.
Yeah.
But the idea is that this is something that anyone on the web can pick up and use. And the problem is that because of the way that these big tech giants work, Google's not going to go, great idea, love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we are starting to see some kind of, I was about to use the word synergy then, and I
synergy.
Stopped myself.
Linking my hands together.
Yeah.
In a synergistic way.
But you are starting to see some really good collaboration between these giants.
That's good.
Which is good. Not synergy, though. They are not posting on LinkedIn.
The CSS working group has published a couple of drafts. One is the View Transition API.
Yes.
And the other is scroll linked animations. So the View Transition API, i.e. Internet Explorer had this for ages.
Yes.
And it was awful.
Yes.
And it was a DirectX transform something or other. And you could do like basically all the effects or horrible effects you could do in PowerPoint between pages. And people would just slam that in, which was awful.
Didn't take off, did it?
No.
Oddly.
But this is more better. So this is like you could have the same elements on 2 pages and how it transitions between the two.
Yeah.
So you go from an index page to a view, and you save a lot of rendering compute power and things like that.
Yeah. Jake Archibald's done a set of fantastic posts on this. You should definitely have a look. Talking about how you can achieve that single page app feeling, but obviously with completely separate pages using that View Transition API. So,
I like that.
Kind of, again, going full circle here in terms of going back to multi-page. What are they calling multi-page sites? It's just a website.
You remember multi-page sites, don't you? It does feel like we can feel full circle.
Yeah, I think so. But it's all good. It's all in the right direction. It's all about creating better standards for these sorts of behaviors. So,
but you can imagine a day where a front end dev will think, "Oh, this is great! You get history out the box."
Yeah, it's kind of mad.
Yeah, you get a JavaScript error on one page, it doesn't fuck the other one.
Yeah,
it's great.
It really is. But we had that before. Also, the Wayback Machine turned 21, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, which I love Wayback Machine. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, that needs to stay alive forever.
I don't know about you, but I've found projects that I've long forgotten about in there, like things that I've not even got the source for before. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I can find old blog posts from sites that don't exist and things like that.
Yeah, I saw a really cool thing that used Wayback Machine to compare diffs of when government and private companies were changing the wording on articles over time.
Yeah.
And you had this little slide. I can't remember if I can find it. I'll put it in the show notes. But you dragged the slider across time, and you could see how either a lawyer had got involved or something and reworded it. Or,
yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the backbone of the internet, I think, because Wikipedia runs on citations.
Yeah.
Interesting tweet the other day from someone who said, if you want to change your name on Wikipedia, you have to say it in an interview.
So I saw that,
but that tweet got so much attention that counted as the citation. So she could get her name updated. But she was like, don't worry, I'm not dating someone while married. But yeah, they got it updated. But yeah, without Wayback Machine, you've got no accountability and anyone could change anything.
Yeah. Which is one of the good things about the web, but also the bad thing in terms of affecting history and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. In November then, so you had the Hey Presents Social, which is quite boozy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but you know what? It was like a conference. It was nice to get everyone together. it was really busy. I was a bit nervous, if I'm honest. I wasn't sure if there's an appetite for social, but
yeah, I saw a few people rocked up halfway through and like, sorry, we missed the talks. I'm like, no, it's fine. It wasn't talks. It's
like,
just booze.
I can give you a talk if you want, but it won't be very helpful.
Yeah, chew your ear off about AI in a second, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't mention GPT for Rio. You'll never get rid of him.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it was really nice. We also soft launched the conference tickets off the back of that, and we've actually already sold a quarter of the conference tickets.
That's great. That's really good.
Which is amazing because we haven't even launched the lineup yet. That's going to be coming in January, but I am super excited.
Looks like a good lineup. I'll try not leak it.
Finding my mole. Return of FFConf in November as well. We did a wrap-up podcast on this too, and it was lovely. So I won't talk too much about that, but Remy and Julie did an outstanding job of bringing that back into real life.
Yeah. It inspired me to dig out the Game Boy stuff.
Oh yeah, of course.
And actually compile code for the Game Boy, which I was quite happy with.
Yeah, because you did your Advent of Code challenges on the Game Boy emulator.
Did a couple of them, yeah. Just ported it across to C. Been learning C a bit more because I think the more you learn about C, the more you realise how everything fits together and why language is so weird.
I've always wanted to dig into it because Ruby's obviously built in C, and I'm really interested.
It's good, but yeah, it's basically like a shotgun.
Yeah.
Quick, but careful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you did a few tweets on the Game Boy Advent of Code stuff, so definitely look at Rio's Twitter if you're interested in that. But I also got very kindly asked to go on a podcast called Another Idea, and we talked about creativity, and we talked about kind of, because it's actually a podcast for photographers and like creatives like that. So it was a bit of a wild card getting kind of an engineer on from a different industry, but we talked about the commonalities between creativity and how I think, engineering and programming is one of the most creative things you can do.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's quite a good chat. So take a look at that if you're interested.
Nice. Then there's a load of web sustainability resources, which look really cool. We'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, with the COP27 climate change summit taking place, really important to sort of keep that in mind, sort of a theme of green engineering this year. But yeah, we'll stick that in the show notes.
Yes, I think that's from Michelle Barker as well, a very kind of vocal person in the green engineering space. Definitely going to be seeing a lot more of green engineering from us next year. The conference specifically has a talk surrounding green engineering, so definitely keep an eye out for that too.
Nice.
And finally in November, Sarah Sedan's practical accessibility course launched. I don't know if you've seen this. Sarah is an absolute force of nature in the industry. She's launched a new course called Practical Accessibility. I think it's open for pre-order now, but there's loads of nuggets and takeaways from that. If you want to really kind of get clued up on how to make more accessible apps and sites, accessibility is often the thing that we sack off, and it needs to not be that way, because ultimately it's blocking out a huge demographic from using your software properly.
100%. Yeah, very, very important stuff. That brings us on to December, which has been pretty busy.
Yes.
I went to Vegas for reInvent. There's an episode on that, so I won't bore you too much. But Advent of Code as well, which I've already mentioned.
Yeah.
Started off great, and now I'm behind.
I'm so behind.
But a big thing for me was Sarah Drosner finally launched her Engineering Management for the Rest of Us book, which I've got the beautiful hard copy version of.
Oh, have you?
And it's nice. It feels nice.
We've been waiting for this for a while, because me and you share a bit of a reading list, don't we?
Yes.
And we've been saying, I can't wait for this to launch, because Sarah is incredibly vocal on all the networks about her experience and what she thinks is not the right way to do things, but kind of, just some really good advice from someone that's lived and breathed that experience. And this book, just like it looks like it's written for us.
Yeah, there's a free sample on the website. I think a lot of the content is adapted from a bunch of blog posts.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely worth getting on Amazon.
I'm using the Kindle now. You got me onto Kindle,
Yeah.
but you think the hardback's worth it? It's a nice.
I quite like a physical book as well.
Yeah, I just promise I just get them all like full of grease and everything, so they just hang around the kitchen with me and stuff.
Sometimes I'll read across both, like
Oh, okay.
a psychopath.
Yeah, I can't get my head around that.
So I track my reading using Basmo, which is like a reading Strava for reading, basically.
Right. Okay.
And then know what page I'm on. And
Yeah.
I can switch between different things.
I see.
But yeah, well, not for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's too crazy for me. And what else happened in December?
Google are switching to a continuous scroll, which is interesting.
I saw someone saying, if the results were good enough, you wouldn't have to do that. Like Google's not what it used to be and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, maybe, but I think there's just a lot of stuff on the internet. It doesn't have to be the first 10 results.
I mean, to be honest, you probably don't go past the first couple of pages anyway, do you really? So,
No.
So a continuous scroll makes sense. I'm surprised it's taken them this long to do that, to be honest. Are you okay?
I'm okay. So everybody's got the lurgy this month. So yeah, that's another thing that happened.
Yeah, another thing that happened in December is everyone got ill. Yeah, there's a lot going around.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. It's kind of just lingers for months, well, not months, but weeks.
Yeah.
It feels like months.
I've seen people with all sorts of illnesses. You know, the flu's definitely worse this year, it seems, and COVID's obviously still not gone anywhere. So, yeah, hope everyone's faring well through this incredibly difficult period.
But we also had the 25 years since Microsoft Front Page 98. So I actually built my first website in Front Page. It was called downloadace.com, and I got a free domain name from, I think it's called Zero something.
Right.
And they were giving out free.com. It's like, early internet, just burn loads of investor cash. We're going to give out free domain names and figure it out later.
Yeah.
But I was really excited. And I also made a website called Fun Polls, which got me a very interesting school report.
Oh my God.
Which was one of many reasons why I ended up getting banned from the school computers. But
I was I heard you mention this, but I was howling when you sent me the report that got sent to your mum and dad's house, which was you being told off for making some poll software on your own time.
Yeah. And that's all we'll say about that.
But goes to show that you've always had that kind of pioneering spirit in you.
I think there's another situation where a teacher called me in and asked me what my name was, and I was like, "What do you mean?" It's James, obviously. It's like, "Oh, it's not William Hill then," because I was running some sort of football betting thing.
Lovely.
But I mean,
I love that that thing where the teacher thinks they're an absolute comedian when they bring.
He's been thinking that all week, hasn't he? Like
he's going. Today's gonna be the day. I'm gonna call him in. I'm gonna say it to him. Also, in December, Parallax had an absolutely cracking time at the I don't know how you meant to say it, awards.
Yeah, we got Site of the Day, which is really nice.
Fantastic.
For Hexagon and the Nexus Portal stuff. We got a Beamer Bronze Award in the Trailblazer category. We got CSS Website of the Day. FWA of the Day.
Amazing.
That's still going.
Absolutely cleaned up then.
Yeah, loads of stuff. We also launched Chatloop, which is social media browser that I keep plugging.
Yeah.
And Brass Monkey, which is a premium ice bath.
Oh, okay.
Joe Wicks has got one.
Oh, no. I've seen them. I almost bought one.
I
But then I realised I don't need to be any colder than I am.
don't know how much I could say under NDA, but it's very cool, and it's on the internet now.
So take a look.
There will be there's an app on the App Store. It looks really swish.
Nice.
And that was us. Check it out.
Chatloop, is that in public beta now?
Yes, you can download that from the App Store and the Play Store.
Nice.
It's looking really good. There's a bunch of other stuff launching as well. So we're going to do a bit of a roundup Parallax post.
Nice. We'll chuck that in the show notes, I guess, then, if I'm sure that'll be published in the next few days, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. And that's the year. That's all 12 months of goodness. It's been a good one, hasn't it? I think it's been nice. I've certainly enjoyed doing these podcasts more with you. We've actually kept some sort of regularity, which is nice.
Yeah, it's been really good. And it just helps us collect our thoughts and
So
figure out what we think about stuff. But yeah, it's been a really good year.
Yeah. So I guess thanks for being our rubber ducks in that sense. But yeah, thanks for sticking with us, and I hope you have a fantastic time with your families over the Christmas period. I'm sure me and Ria will have a good time winding down after a very long year.
Have a lovely Christmas.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one, mate. Speak soon.
Bye. Bye.
And that's us for this year. Thanks for sticking with us. And as always, hit subscribe to get more episodes from us in the future. Have a fantastic holiday break, and we'll see you in the new year.